Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us and welcome to our July 22nd, 2026 Board of Douglas County Commissioners 5:30 business meeting. If you had the opportunity to join us earlier at 4 o'clock, we talked about our capital improvements plan budget, so feel free to watch that if you missed it, and also we'll take public comment on that if anybody has anything to weigh in on. We do have our chair, Commissioner Reed, with us online, so I'm Karen Willey, the vice chair, and I'll be running our meeting. There are paper copies of the agenda available for those here in person, and the full packet is available on our website. In reviewing our agenda, we have the work session that just happened. Then we'll have 3 items on our consent agenda. Then we'll have time for general public comment. And then our regular agenda has 3 items also. Given our limited time and need to have an orderly and efficient meeting, we'll apply certain rules regarding our general public comment. We do our best to enforce those rules consistently and without regard to the point of view expressed by the speaker. And here are the rules. Each speaker is limited to a total of 3 minutes of speaking time. However, we accept public comment of any length in writing. Individual speakers may not donate unused time to other speakers. All comments must address topics within the jurisdiction of the County Commission, and reserve the right to mute or remove any speaker whose comments are threatening, aggressively hostile, or belligerent. Campaigning for public office during public comment period is not allowed. Please give your full name and address for our meeting minutes if you are so inclined, and address your comments to the Commission. Please also know that comments received by the Commission during our meetings do not necessarily represent the views of Douglas County government, but we value the input. We don't usually respond to general public comment on the spot, but if you'll leave your contact information for county staff, we'll try and get specific questions answered. After that, we'll move to our regular agenda. And for action items on those, we will hear from staff or the applicant, followed by questions from the Commission, and then open that item up for public comment relevant to that item. And then once that public comment is closed, we'll bring the item back to the Commission for further discussions and a vote. Lastly, a recording of this meeting will be available on the county's YouTube page and website. So with that, we have a consent agenda before us, and I'll first ask commissioners, do you have any items you would like to remove from the consent agenda for further discussion? Seeing none. Any member of the public would like to pull an item from our consent agenda from other conversation? No. Do you know which item it is on consent agenda you'd like? Okay, 1.2. And do we have anybody with hands raised online? No. We'll get to it. Yeah, we'll pull it. So I would entertain a motion for the other items, and we will pull 1.2.
Motion to approve consent agenda items 1.1 and 1.3.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. So item number 1.2, I'll first start with commissioners. Is there anyone who would have any questions for staff on item 1.2 before I open it up for public comment? Okay, seeing none. Come on up for public comment on 1.2. That's the emergency management terminating the World Cup 2026 State of Local Disaster Declaration.
Eric Hyde, 1601 West 27th Street, Lawrence, Kansas, 66046. I just wanted to talk about, I was really pleased with the police. I don't really know what the sheriff did at that time, but the police did a really good job during that time period of the emergency disaster stuff that you declared. The only thing I wanted to mention, and not in a hostile way, is that I was glad that a lot of Algerians were here and that they loved Lawrence and they loved this country. I just felt that a lot of people in Lawrence did not love the United States at the time. And I was very displeased to see a lot of Algerian flags more than the United States flag at that time on social media, and just was upset about that because it was, the 250th anniversary, that's basically it. I just kind of think about that, so I mean, we live here, so I mean, we don't live in Algeria. I'm not against Muslims, actually there's a lot of Muslims that are conservative, and I'm conservative, and all religions, they're all basically saying the same thing, just in different ways. So I'm not against any religion. I'm just against extremists in any religion, and extremists that are against our own country, even here in Lawrence. So you know, I used to be that way too, but I grew out of it. So I love this. I love this place. Anyway, I love you guys too. So even if it seems I don't, but anyway, thanks just for listening to me about it. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. This has been pulled for the public. Is there any other member of the public who would like to give comment on this? Seeing nobody else in public in here, do we have anyone online? No. Okay. I'll bring it back to the commission for any further questions, conversations, or a vote.
Commissioner Kelly, I move to terminate the state local disaster emergency proclamation for Douglas County, Kansas.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That brings us to general public comment. Is there anyone who'd like to make public comment on items that are not on our business agenda? Do we have anyone here? Okay, come on up.
Okay. Eric Hyde, 1601 West 27th Street, Lawrence, Kansas, 66046. Chairman, Commissioner, Vice Chairman, Commissioner, Commissioners. So I just wrote this very recently today. Over the years, I have received a clear message from many Lawrencians that I am not wanted in the place of my birth, the place I still call home. And it's painful to live with the effects of significant brain injuries. And then be repeatedly dismissed, neglected, and beaten down by hostility. My wife and I have discussed moving to the countryside. At the same time, my mother she lives here right next door to me, and I miss my place. She'll need my care and assistance. I used to be a paramedic, so I can take care of her here in Lawrence, so I'll probably stay here. There's much that I love about this community, this county. My efforts to contribute have often been rejected and treated as though they don't matter. At times, I wonder whether I must accept that Lawrence may never become the home I hoped it could be. My son has entered a new stage of exploring the ground outdoors, and it's kind of hard to take him outside because he cries to be put on the ground and he gets bug bites and stuff. So it's kind of sad to go through that new phase because I can't carry him around as much anymore. Anyway, I'm not speaking of self-harm or a desire to die. I am just really exhausted with living with this disability, the rejection, all the pain. I have a headache right now. And the feeling that my abilities are not being allowed to benefit the community I love in this county. But anyway, the last part's kind of wordy. One thing I wanted to say though, 1 minute left, is that one thing I've been against, just because I don't think Bert Nash has really treated people like me with there's a lot of people with brain injuries in this town. A lot more than you know. And Bert Nash ain't good with people with brain injury. And so I think you should really consider that next time you guys want to give him money, or the TRC. Because the TRC has freaking abused me too and discriminated against me too. I walked out. I was like, you guys suck, basically. So I ain't coming here. Anyway, but yeah, just think about that. Holding them more accountable to help everybody with disabilities and stuff like that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other takers for public comment? And anyone online? Oh, do you? Sorry. Yes. Yeah. Thank you. So for that, we'll close general public comment and we'll start our regular agenda. And the first item on our agenda is a zoning and codes issue for agritourism. Hi.
Maya, I think this is your first presentation to us. So if you could introduce yourself, that'd be great.
And welcome.
Hi, everybody. My name's Amaya Dejani. I'm the zoning technician with Douglas County Zoning and Codes. So you may have seen me around the office a couple of times. I know I've seen all of you around, and it's great to see you tonight. I am here today to present a Tier 2 application from Steve Hood of Busted Cat Brewery.
You'll have to
to-
get kind of close to that
Yeah.
mic. So
Aw,
thanks. And you can hold
Can
it
I-
also if that's easier.
Thank you. I am here today to present a Tier 2 agritourism application from Steve Hood of Busted Cat Brewery to allow a brewery and a farm stay use to be located at 417 Highway 40, which is the Clock House. So agritourism applications don't come forward too often, so I just wanted to give a quick recap of our code and state requirements. So agritourism is permitted through both the state and the county. The county's registration coincides with the state. So every 5 years, they come back for re-registration. And applications through Douglas County are dependent on if they have that state approval. So the state of Kansas identifies agritourism as a way to sustain the family farm and sustain the rural way of life. Activities can include farming activities, but they can also include historic, cultural, or natural attractions. And in our code, we tier agritourism in 2 tiers. So tier 1, agritourism operations, y'all don't get to hear. They're administratively processed through our office. And these are lower intensity uses, and operators are required to live on site. So what triggered this to be a tier 2 operation is the requirement for the operator to live on site. Steve is not planning to reside on site with the brewery operation and the farm stay operation happening. Okay, this is our map. And then on that website, we have a little more information about agritourism in the county. And this is an opportunity for all the agritourism operators to share their story, share a little bit about their operation, and also show, hey, we support you. Go check out these cool places in the county. So a little background of the application. There's the clock house up there. The applicant is in the process of purchasing the property. The applicant is proposing different areas on the property to plant certain wheats and fruit trees, basils, and all kinds of herbs, melons, and there are also goats proposed for a petting zoo on the property. The brewing operation is proposed in the larger accessory building, but there's also a smaller accessory building on the site as well. And all ancillary retail sales were indicated to be pickup only. I believe he said a release once a month for pickup. So this is where that is, off west in the county, off of Highway 40. And this is the site plan that was submitted. So it is a little small. You can zoom in on the online packet. If you don't have it in front of you, I can clear up anything, but this just shows where they're planting everything. Everything's labeled, color coded. And then this is that large building proposed for the brewery, and then the clock house, which is proposed for the farm stay. And this is that big accessory building that's already out there. This property is located in the AG2 zoning district. It is currently a detached single-family dwelling use. Surrounding land uses are all agricultural and residential in nature. Most are just developed with a single-family residence and ag. So there is some historic significance to the Fitzpatrick House, which is what it's supposed to be called, but we all call it the Clock House. It was built in 1905, and the historic barn was also built in 1905. That's that on the screen. The barn is not proposed to be used as part of the agritourism registration per the submitted plans. Both the barn and the clock house are listed on the Kansas Historic Resources Inventory, which was a project that was done to identify the historic buildings in Douglas County. The KHRI, they indicate that neither the house or the barn are eligible for the state or national register. So the house has had a couple additions in the past. The clock and the porch came in 1980, and then there was another addition added, I guess it was to the back of the house, as Steve was telling me earlier, a larger kitchen in the back of the house. And there are some soils of statewide importance located on this property, on the northern half of this property. So when reviewing Tier 2 agritourism uses, these are the code sections we look at. And then to just go through staff review, the current owner submitted that authorization to allow Steve to pursue agritourism permitting prior to purchase. So what we look at when we're researching and going through staff review for Tier 2 agritourism is lighting, parking, tree screening, and access. And staff has not identified any conflicts between the proposed land use and existing conditions. One requirement outlined in the agritourism regulations is a required setback of 50 feet from adjacent properties. However, that existing really large outbuilding that's proposed to be used for the brewery is only 35 feet from that line. So staff are proposing a approval of a waiver to reduce separation from 50 feet to 35 feet. So this is who got sent the notification and comment. It's half a mile, 20 days notification. Solicited comments from agencies as well. And I'm actively working with KDOT to ensure everything is okay for the entrance and access point off of 40. And I received a couple of phone calls just asking for the links and then a couple of emails in negation. So when reviewing or deciding what action to take, the BOCC may take one of the following. You may approve the registration, including any waivers, approve the registration with conditions, restrictions, return the registration to staff with requests for more information, or deny the registration. So with that, staff recommends approval of the Tier 2 agritourism permit request to allow a brewery and farm stay to be located at 417 Highway 40 with the following stipulations and waivers. Approval of the request is limited to the proposed use indicated on the site plan. The waiver we discussed earlier is the next waiver I listed on there, that 50-foot buffer down to 35. All farm stays and vacation rentals in the county have to pass a life safety inspection with our office and our chief building official, just to make sure they have all those safety precautions in place, including smoke detectors, fire extinguishers, etc. A change of use permit is going to be required for that accessory building to transition it from a residential accessory into a commercial accessory building. So Steve will work with our office to get that permitted if approved. And this permit is contingent upon successful registration with Kansas Tourism. And finally, the applicant shall continually maintain all other applicable regulations. And this one's supposed to cover KDOT. I'm still working with them. And the applicant is present if you have any questions.
Okay, we have questions for Maya before we ask the applicant if they would care to speak.
This probably predates Maya, but I noticed the size of those lots are small. I guess that was planted long ago.
Yes,
Yeah.
I assume so. Yep.
Yep.
Other questions for Maya? I'll have some, but I'm happy to hear from the applicant first. Okay, do you have anything you don't have to share, but do you have anything you'd like to share? Okay. You'd have to come up to the mic if you, yeah. And so our process is we hear from staff and the applicant. If you want to, you can come on up. Then we'll hear from the public. If there are things that you'd like to respond to, we'd give you a chance then also. So if you want to wait for that, you sure can.
I can just wait and see if there's
Okay.
anything else.
Sounds good. Thank you. Other questions for staff, commissioners? I have a couple, but if you're ready. Okay. So other than the residency part of it, everything in here would fit under tier 1. So the only aspect is not having the owner living on site.
Correct.
Okay. And the 50 versus 35-foot screening, I recognize it's a pre-existing building, historical structure. Is there any visual screening that is
Yes.
already existing there or proposed?
Let me go back to the picture. So this is that accessory building right in front of the larger one. You can see all that screening right there, but let me go back to this one. So that's where all those trees are.
Talk to me about the difference between a farm stay and another kind of short-term rental in terms of, does this get permitted in the same way, or are there differences between a farm stay and other short-term rentals?
So a vacation rentals, what we call those short-term rentals in the county, they work with Carl through that process. Vacation rentals also go through that life safety inspection to ensure that they are all good to go with Terry checks outlets, smoke detectors, all kinds of things. You can't have an outlet without a GFCI in certain places, so he goes and tests a lot of those. I've been able to shadow him on a couple. It's fun. So vacation rentals are permitted by right with the application and that life safety inspection approval.
Okay, so there's no.
Pretty much the same. It's just on a farm.
Okay. got
Yeah.
it. Are there any hours of operation around the agritourism? We haven't seen anything in here, and I don't know that we usually do, but if you're talking about a brewery, does that kind of anticipate some longer hours or later hours? And I don't know if that's a question for staff, if you talked about it, or for the applicant.
I plan on working just 9 to 5 for the most part. If there's ever an emergency or if I just need to come in and check on things, or obviously if someone's staying there, there may be some cause for me to come out and fix something or check on something or help out with any of the facilities.
So if you had any events planned, that would be a separate process, a separate permitting process. That makes probably an Amaya question.
Yes, it would go through the special event permitting process if there was a larger event taking place.
Thanks. Any other questions, commissioners?
So I want to make sure I'm clear that and this is for the applicant, the brewery is not a place where people will come to be, it's not a bar, right?
Correct.
It's just production and people are picking up product. Is that correct?
Correct.
And what is the relationship of the farm stay house to the brewery? Is there any connection there at all?
I mean, unless someone staying there wants me to deliver beer to them,
Mhm.
no, there's not like a really strong connection between them staying there and the brewery. The farm is just going to operate for the brewery as far as ingredients.
Okay. And Commissioner Willie asked about an event permit, right? What is the threshold that you would have to move to an event from a large family party? When does it become an event?
I'm gonna let Tanya answer that one.
So in this case, when an applicant puts that information on their application, they typically will say if they want events or not, and then we need to come to you to ask to include that. So you've seen some agritourisms that will have weddings, and it will actually be marked that they want to do special events. Their type 2 is limited to 80 people and 40 cars. So, and then what would then happen is then it would trigger, if they were over 80 people, then they would need to get a special event. You can do up to 4 of those a year. And then you're maxed out at that. But in this specific case, they're not approved for weddings. And so, or special events or larger assembly uses. They don't have a building that's been approved for assembly uses. That inspection, converting that to commercial will not be for assembly use. So he would not be able to do that and he would not be permitted for that.
Question for the applicant. How many people do you expect would be part of the farm stay?
Well, there's 3 bedrooms, so I'm gonna say two people per room, 6. I mean, that's kind of all that we're expecting. There is a large kitchen, so we can imagine that someone might have a large meal there with their family, but I don't expect anyone over 6 people to spend the night.
Thanks.
Other questions?
Being that this is Highway 40, at times it does have a fair amount of accidents. So we do have safety concerns on Highway 40. When we think about off-premise alcohol sales, have we taken a look at any safety concerns?
So I'm actively working with KDOT. I think they're a little confused about the use. We've played phone tag for about a week and a half now, about this topic. And so far, what I'm seeing is that they want him to fill out a new entrance application, just to indicate what's going on. And I believe that KDOT will do that safety review when it comes to it.
Okay, so a safety review has not yet been completed?
Not by KDOT, at least. We didn't see any concerns regarding the access as staff. It's a circle drive, so there's an in and then an out. And I didn't see too many blind corners when I was there.
Okay, yeah, I know. But when we think about like off premise
Yeah.
alcohol sales, even if there are no blind corners, if individuals are taking alcohol off the premise, we don't have any line of sight to maybe what they're doing with that alcohol. And yes, we don't have any control to what they're doing with that alcohol either. So, but knowing that Highway 40 does have a fair amount of accidents. I mean, so my biggest concern would be if individuals are choosing to drink and drive when they're leaving that particular establishment, if we're maybe potentially creating safety concerns for those individuals on Highway 40 or, yeah, so I'm going to pause
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. So I believe that there's not going to be any on-premise drinking, correct?
Yeah, you're saying off premise.
You're correct, because you're saying that you're going to open it up. I think you said once a month for individuals to come and pick up alcohol and leave. Is that what I heard?
Correct. They're just going to pick it up. They can't drink it there. It won't allow anyone to just loiter outside and open it. Yeah. The plan is that no one should, unless they have a farm stay and they drink and then leave. Like that's really the only scenario where anyone should be leaving there under the influence.
Okay, all right. So they won't be opening up whatever it is at that particular time, petting some animals, and then putting it in their vehicle and leaving.
Yeah, my plan is just to make the petting the animals part of the farm stay, not of everyone who comes to the property.
Okay.
This may be for, oh, sorry, Johnny, jump in.
I was just going to add maybe just a point of clarification too. So his hours that he stated are 9 to 5 p.m. Typically, our office doesn't have safety concerns unless it's a large assembly use like a wedding venue where they are drinking and then they're leaving from the site. And we know that drinking is happening on the property. And then sometimes the commission will ask or put a condition on that drinking needs to stop by a certain time. So we've had the Board of County Commissioners stop alcohol consumption at 9 p.m., even though the event is going till midnight. But in this case, because there's nothing late night happening, it wasn't a concern by staff.
Can you tell us, I mean, I would think you would have to have a cereal malt beverage license to be serving alcohol probably not in packaged containers, but to be serving open alcohol there. Is that correct?
That's correct. And that liquor license, it does require that our office sign off on that, and they have to be appropriately zoned and permitted for that. And the Board of County Commission is the one who would approve that type of consumption.
There's any other questions before we go to public comment on this? All right, we'll give you guys a chance to sit down, even if briefly. Is there anyone here today who would like to speak on this item? Okay, you can come on up. And if anyone online wants to speak, they can use the raise your hand function so that we can flag it.
Eric Hyde, 1601 West 27th Street, Lawrence, Kansas, 66046. So it mostly sounds like a good idea. And I'm seeing up here on the commission that the alcohol thing's a little bit dicey. Because, you know, people still might even be showing up there with their own drinks. It's just you know, it's Highway 40, and right, it is a safety concern, even if people aren't drinking. The thing I do like about this project is that there's going to be a petting zoo. I just went to the petting zoo in Overland Park last weekend with my wife and son. It was great, but I don't remember seeing anything about alcohol there at all. So it was very family oriented. So, I mean, a petting zoo could be a really great attraction for this county, because we'd have to go all the way to Overland Park for it pretty much right now. I don't really feel comfortable with the alcohol part. I don't drink alcohol. I used to, but I don't anymore. I just don't like it. And that's the only thing I'm really concerned about is the alcohol. Oh, and then the thing I wanted to mention was I say this a lot when I can, is that I read the whole entire Brothers Karamazov book by Dostoevsky. And in that book, it talks about aristocrats profiting off of alcohol, a business. That's one of the many things they do. And in that story, these aristocrats, I like aristocrats, but they end up like there's a murder trial that goes on, and it's just not quite the most ethical thing to do, is kind of the point that Dostoevsky was trying to make. So just keep that in your mind. I like where you're already going with it, though. I can see that. So I'll leave a decision up to you. But yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else would like to give public comment on this item? Anyone online? All right, I'll close the public comment and bring it back to the commission for any further questions, conversations, or votes.
I don't have any questions. Just, it does seem like there's two different uses here. One is the, manufacturer of beer. I'm assuming, I guess you could brew other things, but I'm going to assume that it's beer and distribution of that. And then there's the farm stay. And the questions I asked and other commissioners asked, I think separated those two things for me satisfactorily. So I'm in favor of this. Happy to make a motion if others are ready.
Should take a look at Commissioner Reed, and we get a thumbs up there. So I think we are ready for a motion, and we can certainly call for more conversation if needed.
I move to approve a type 2 agritourism permit request from Steve Hood of Busted Cat Brewery to allow the brewery with an accessory farm stay used to be located at 4417 Highway 40 with the conditions as listed in the staff memo.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further conversation? Nope. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0. Thank you. Brings us to our second item. I see Carl coming up. This is also a zoning and codes item for a temporary business use.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Carl Bauer, County Planner with the Douglas County Zoning and Codes Office. Before you is a application for a temporary business use permit to allow a laydown yard at near the intersection of East 902 Road and North 1464 Road. That is just on the west side of town, and that will be from July 27th through October 31st. So first, for a little bit of background, the applicant is Thomas Elizondo of Southern Star Central Gas Pipeline. And again, they're seeking a TBU permit to allow a laydown yard. The zoning code is currently laid out so that if someone is proposing a temporary laydown yard, that requires a temporary business use permit. And again, the property is located northeast of the intersection of East 902 Road and North 1464 Road. This is directly to the east of the Lawrence Family Church. And then there's a house addressed as 920 North 1464, just to the east of the site. The properties consist of 3 platted lots that are owned by Kristen B. James, who also owns the house directly to the east of the site. The proposed laydown yard will be used to store materials and equipment and support the relocation of a 2.22 mile stretch of a natural gas pipeline that's being relocated due to the ongoing road work on K10. The proposed laydown yard will be in operation from July 27th through October 31st from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday. And again, whenever someone is proposing a laydown yard, that requires a temporary business use permit from the Board of County Commissioners. So the property is located within that red circle that you see on the west side of Lawrence there. Zooming in, the proposed laydown yard is on those 3 platted lots. The properties are zoned CP. This is within a residential subdivision. The church property is this one to the west, and then the 3 subject properties, as well as the one to the east, are all under the same ownership. So the 3 platted lots together are about 6 acres in area, and again are zoned CP. That is the primarily residential district out in the unincorporated area. The properties are close to city limits, and this is within Tier 2 of the Lawrence urban growth area. Surrounding land uses include a church to the west. Properties to the east and south are developed with single-family residences on 1 to 3 acre lots. And then property to the north is also developed with single-family residences on larger lots. I went out to the site last week. These are some photos from the area. This is North 1464 Road looking to the west. So the laydown yard would be to the east, or excuse me, to the north on the right side of that photo. Then this is looking to the north from North 1464 Road, looking toward the laydown yard site, and then the house that's under the same ownership. This is looking to the east from the church parking lot. And as you can see, the area has been staked out. Then the Lawrence Loop Trail passes by along East 902 Road. So this is looking at the Lawrence Loop Trail, looking south toward the church and the area where the entrance will be crossing over the Lawrence Loop Trail has been staked out there. This is a site plan that's been submitted by the applicant. So it's been marked out where the proposed laydown yard is located. Then the red line here, that is where the proposed pipeline will be going through. The zoning code requires that when an applicant is applying for a temporary business use permit, that they supply certain details about what will be going on with that activity. So with traffic and access to the site, both of the roads that are going by are classified as local roads. There were some concerns raised by Public Works related to North 1464 Road, which is a cul-de-sac with several residences located on it. Both of these roads are paved, but North 1464 Road is specifically designed for low traffic residential uses with a thin layer of asphalt that heavy truck traffic would likely damage if the laydown yard would be accessed off that road. And as such, staff is recommending a condition that access only come from East 902 Road. We also reached out to the city of Lawrence as we were reviewing this based on concerns about the Lawrence Loop Trail. Staff is thus recommending a condition to ensure any damage is repaired, and also recommending a condition that orange and black signs be placed on either side of that entrance to alert anyone using that trail to the increase in truck traffic. As far as illumination and security, there's no new lighting being proposed, and staff is recommending a condition that any lighting that is used be directed down and away from neighboring properties. The applicant has stated a night watchman will be on site, and the laydown yard will be fenced whenever it's within 50 feet of a residence. There's a provision in the zoning code that requires TBUs to have an insurance policy. I did speak with the applicant and he said that they will have the site insured. There's a condition attached to the TBU requiring a submittal of proof of insurance to the zoning and codes office. As far as noise and nuisances, there may be some noises generated by generators, vehicles, the construction equipment that'll be on site. When I brought this question up to the applicant, he stated that the noise generated by the project will be similar to the noise generated by the ongoing road construction, which is just to the west of this site. Neighboring properties to the north and west are also screened by trees, with the condition that access not come off of North 1464 Road. That also serves to mitigate some of the increased traffic and noise that those neighbors to the south would be experiencing. As far as sensitive lands, the site is overlain with soils classified as farmland of statewide importance, but these properties are within a residential subdivision and are not actively being farmed. The applicant has also stated that trees on the site are to remain. And finally, with removal, the applicant has stated that the site will be returned to its original condition upon completion of the laydown yard, and staff is recommending a condition to ensure the site is restored and that any damaged public infrastructure is repaired. So again, there's a section of the zoning code that regulates laydown yards and temporary business uses. The specific language used is that a construction building or construction material yard requires a temporary business use permit. And as you are making your decision today, there are 4 factors to be considered: the intensity of the use, the traffic generated, plans for dealing with sanitation and other public health and safety issues, and other factors in your discretion that may affect public health, safety, and welfare. Staff did send out letters to property owners within half a mile in the unincorporated area and 400 feet into city limits. There's a requirement that those be sent out at least 10 days in advance. We sent out 162 letters on July 10th. I have not received any phone calls or emails since those letters went out. Also, we reached out to relevant agencies seeking their comment. I got 2 comments back from the City of Lawrence's MSO department. They had some concerns about crossing the Lawrence Loop Trail and requested that compacted gravel be used. They also requested the orange and black signs on either side of the entrance and that any damaged concrete is repaired. And then after reaching out to Public Works, they indicated that the pavement on that residential road is very thin and not suitable for truck traffic. And then staff is presenting a recommendation of approval with conditions that the permit is for the laydown yard on the submitted plans only, that the hours of operation are 7 to 7, Monday through Saturday, that access from that residential road is prohibited, that the applicant install the temporary signage alerting trail users to truck traffic, that they use compacted gravel over the trail crossing, that any damages be restored, that any lighting be directed downward and away from adjacent properties, that a proof of insurance be submitted, and that all applicable rules and regulations be followed. With that, I'm available for any questions.
Carl, where is the actual pipeline being built? Is it right next to the laydown yard through that area?
It is. So if you look at the site plan, there's this red line going right through it. That's where the proposed pipeline is.
Commissioners, other questions for Carl? We have an applicant here who would also like to speak.
He's online. If he wants to speak, I need him to accept the promotion to panelist, and he's not done that.
And he doesn't have to, but I have a couple more questions to Carl while he considers whether he wants to do that. Just a clarification, we have had an East 902 road on our radar before and can continue to. This is a different section of East 902 road. Can you just address that some of the issues that we're dealing with there are or are not the case here?
This is a paved county maintained road as opposed to the one to the north, which is a township maintained gravel road.
Thank you. And I believe in the past, we'd had some conversations with neighbors about drainage issues from the church across the East 1464 road, but this is bypassing all of that. So do you have any drainage concerns based on that?
I believe there is a ditch and some culverts on the north side of North 1464 road. I'm not aware of any other specific drainage concerns with this one.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, any other questions for the moment? And no word from the applicant? Okay, we'll go ahead and open this up for public comment and see if we bring you back. So is there anyone in the room here who would like to come on up and give us public comment? And anyone online who would like to can use the raise your hand function and we will look for you next.
Thank you for the opportunity to provide public comment. Karen Brayman, 911 North 1464 Road. My house, were there pictures taken to the south of the proposed laydown, you would see all the houses that are located along there. So, I mean, that is one recommendation I have would be to look at how close our homes are to where the proposed laydown section is. And I do want to thank Mr. Bauer for his notice. It got my attention. I really do appreciate staff's recommendation that the construction vehicles be prohibited from traveling along 1464. The map was a little bit confusing on the other side of the public notice because it did show construction entrance that was proposed not only literally across the street from our houses, but also at the end of the cul-de-sac. So I do want to make sure that that cul-de-sac is protected as well. I have a couple of other comments and questions really about the noise mitigation. There are no trees between the proposed laydown area and our homes. So we don't have the benefit of the noise mitigation that those other homes do. And I totally understand that the applicant has said that they don't anticipate the noise being any louder than the construction on K10, but that's a lot farther away than literally across the street from my front yard. So I do have significant concerns about the noise mitigation and the weight of the construction equipment and the materials that are being stored there. I mean, if those were to be dropped on the ground, how is that going to impact our home's foundations, our driveways? You know, just thinking about those impacts to all of our homes along 1464 Road. The last comment that I have, and I'll defer to my neighbor, but the repairs and restoration to the bike path, I'm sorry I'm going over, but there was a drainage ditch that was installed some months ago just north of this proposed laydown area. The bike path section was completely destroyed and it has not been repaired since. And it's dangerous. There are cracks, there are big chunks of the bike path that, have been dislodged. So just something to think about. I mean, how are we going to guarantee that the bike path will be repaired and then any other damage to that area would be repaired? Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. You bet. And do we have another who'd like to come up and give comment? Okay, come on up. I think that mic is still on and ready for you.
Okay, push the button. All right, great. Oh, yeah, that's really loud. Jennifer Smith, 1464, right? 909 North 1464 Road. And I don't know that I have much to add to what was already said. The map was confusing with that entrance down at the end of the cul-de-sac. And if the laydown yard is right across the street from us and they're going to access it from the other road, how does that work? Are they going to come through the church? I just don't see how it's going to work at all. And wondering if anybody knows if there's an alternate.
We'll get a chance to ask. Yeah.
Oh, you guys are going to ask that. Okay, great. Well, then I don't have anything else.
All right.
You have
Thank
the
you.
same questions I have.
Anyone else in the room who'd like to speak on this? And anyone online? Okay. I'm going to close public comment, bring it back to the commission for perhaps a few follow-up questions. And thank you, Carl. Carl, do you mind bringing the map back up and just kind of walking us through? And I've not made good eye contact with Commissioner Reed. I hope you will flag me if you have comments or questions. Thank you.
And commissioners, to bring up the point of access off of North 1464 Road, original plans were to access the site off of that road, but due to concerns raised by Public Works, staff is recommending that condition that access only come from East 902 Road. The applicant does have an access easement through the church property for the pipeline construction. And as such, staff is recommending that access only come through that strip there.
And that's the gray at the top left.
That's the construction access.
Okay.
Yes.
So it wouldn't be on North 1464 Road at all. It would be the far side of the church.
That's how the condition is phrased, so that they're not taking access off of that residential road.
Great. Thank you. I'll have some other questions, but I'm going to look.
Carl, on that map, could you point out where the bike trail is?
So if you see this white line right here, that is the Lawrence Loop Trail.
Okay. Oh, go ahead. I
So,
couldn't see your.
Carl, I mean, the public is asking questions about what happens if their foundation is disturbed due to the heavy weight. I'm sure we've dealt with that with temporary business requests before. Can you speak on that a little bit?
That's unfortunately not something that can really be addressed by zoning, and that is a dispute between a property owner and the applicant.
How far is it from the laydown yard as proposed and the nearest residence, not counting the church?
I don't have an exact measurement on that. That is a question I would defer to the applicant if they're available.
If they take us up on that, I would just venture to say, it looks like a fair distance, like it's significantly far from homes compared to other similar types of
I do know
applicable
that
maintenance.
they did state in an email that there would be parts of it within 50 feet of a residence, but those areas would be fenced. I'm assuming that's referring to that residence to the east that's under the same ownership as those 3 lots.
So in terms of the utility replacement, the pipeline itself, that's not something that we are allowed to consider. It comes by right to provide utilities. The laydown yard is the only piece.
Correct. The laydown yard is the only piece of this that is under your consideration. The pipeline construction is considered a utility that isn't subject to zoning.
So everything that's the red line that's shown, there will be construction along that line to put in the pipeline, and that's not necessarily something that we have any purview over, just
Correct.
the square there that's the laydown yard. Okay, thanks. Go ahead, Commissioner Anderson.
So if we have the purview of approving the laydown yard, and in the process of approving the laydown yard, if through that process, to Commissioner Kelly's question, if that were to cause an effect, if that were to cause problems with foundations, it's that then creates a challenge for the resident and the applicant to then figure out on their own, because we've then created something for them to figure out on their own. Is that what you're saying?
It would be a dispute between those 2 parties.
Because we have done something for them to figure out on their own? We've approved something? I'm just asking a question. It's
There
either
are-
yes or
There are
no.
all sorts of different uses
Okay.
that can create damages.
Okay.
and This is one of many.
Okay. All right. And then so they will drive through the church.
The north side of this church
Of their
property
land.
that you see here. So the church property is this square that you see. So they would be traveling through the north side of that up in here.
Okay. And so they're like going to drive through their grass or something, because there's no
I believe gravel
Path.
will be laid down.
okay, so they're going to lay down gravel. And who will be paying for that gravel?
That would be the applicant.
Okay.
It's on private property.
Okay, thank you.
Carl, do you know the size of the pipe for the pipeline?
I do not have that information in front of me.
I was just curious if it's this big or this big.
So Carl Southern Star Pipeline has been a utility provider in Douglas County, and they've had laydown yards, probably more than one. Can you talk about anything learned from that would be of concern or that we would learn from?
The most recent laydown yard approved for a pipeline project was on a gravel road, and there were some concerns raised by the township regarding damages to the gravel road. This project is different since this takes access from paved roads. When I was developing the conditions for this particular temporary business use permit, I looked at the conditions from that permit from, I believe, 2023 that was in Grant Township, and looked at what would be relevant, but also based these conditions off of those lessons learned.
Can you show us on the map again the outline of the proposed laydown yard? Because I want to make sure we separate the 2 uses between anything that happens with the construction, which is outside of our purview, versus the laydown yard itself.
I believe it's this general area in here that has the kind of cloud-shaped outline.
I'm curious if the entire portion is required, or if there's, can it be moved, more towards the north end of it, or have you had conversations with the applicant? And I wish that they would take us up on the opportunity to join us online. I think I'll have some questions.
As far as siting, I'm not sure about any other potential options they looked at. And I would defer that to the applicant for any additional insight on that.
Go ahead.
So when you all had a conversation around the pavement for North 1464 Road, and you determined that it was too thin and not suitable for truck traffic, why was East 902 Road determined suitable for truck traffic?
I don't know all the details about that, but I do believe that East 902 Road has a thicker layer of asphalt that can accommodate that kind of traffic.
Yeah, as a county operated road, it is built to a higher standard.
Carl, we had a question from the public about the cul-de-sac. It sounds like the decision is to stay entirely off of North 1464 Road. So the cul-de-sac will not be used. That'll be protected also.
Correct. The construction traffic is for the laydown yard is not allowed to use that to access the site.
And we also heard about another impact on the bike trail. Whoever was doing that project is likely was not Southern Star. It's a different entity, so we probably don't even have access to that if it's played through the city.
I'm not particularly familiar with that damage that was brought up. That's something I'm going to have to look into.
And in your opinion, like the conditions that we have in order to protect the bike path and put the bike path back as needed and the insurance that's required, do you feel confident that all of that will be managed?
The language in the condition is based on the concerns that were raised by MSO. And I'm confident that they'll serve to mitigate the issues that have been raised.
Nothing from the applicant?
Mr. Elizondo, I need you to accept the invitation to become a panelist to respond.
And is there a reason that our hours of operation are between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m.? It just seems like that's rather a long period of time, right? Because people could potentially still be sleeping. And then especially if we have any shift workers, I'm just kind of thinking.
Those are the hours that were submitted by the applicant when they submitted their application.
And it's similar to other TBUs that we've had as well.
Okay, because it does go Monday through Saturday. So the only break they would have for noise or construction would be on a Sunday.
And I guess I'm assuming maybe you've had conversations with them that the hours of operation are also to limit the dates that this is required. So finishing up by October 31st.
Correct.
Okay. Commissioners, other questions? I don't think we're going to get an opportunity to ask the applicant, which I would like
Well,
to.
he might be trying. Hold on, now I've got two Thomas Elizondo's on. Okay, so yes, he is. He's joining the panel. Mr. Elizondo, you are in the panel and you can come off mute and answer questions from the commissioners.
We don't hear you yet.
Yeah, can you come off mute? You're still muted if you're trying to talk.
Commissioners, while we see if this works out, do we have any other questions? Are we wrapping towards the end? And my only final question for them was if there's the ability to shift anything kind of towards the back of that. And I'm not sure how to address that without kind of knowing what the repercussions would be. But commissioners, any other questions, thoughts, motions, et cetera?
There's no plan B, is there?
Not that I'm aware of.
Well, I guess if we know that Southern Star Central Gas Pipeline has been doing business here before, I guess I would have liked for them to have been here to answer questions, especially since there is no plan B. And they're struggling to dial in or connect. especially for temporary business use.
We have had them in person in the past. I don't know if this particular person, but with Southern Star. I'm sure they are frustrated also. Is anyone comfortable making a motion at this point? I may be the only one who has that question.
I mean, so I'll just say this kind of use is never great, right? We'd love to say an open field across from those homes and have the infrastructure that we need. But you know, I think that's the trade-off that happens here. In order to have the infrastructure we need, we have to have a little bit of discomfort for a little while. And I totally recognize the neighbors saying it could be loud, there could be damages, and like those are valid concerns. But I think we also have to figure out how to get the materials we need as close to the site as possible. If it's not, somebody said, is there a plan B? If there's not a plan, so the plan B is going to be somewhere else that somebody doesn't love. And I think that's the challenge that we always get into with some of our temporary business units. You know, I don't know what other commissioners think, but I think that, you know, it would be great to talk to the applicants to sort of talk about like, where is this going to be located on the site, and could we work with. My experience has been that usually applicants say, yeah, we'll try to do everything we can to keep it over there, but I can't guarantee that. But I just want to recognize what our public comment is saying and understand and hear that, and also have to weigh how do we make these important infrastructure improvements.
Percy, are you? Oh, okay.
I think he's trying to respond to me in text, and Thomas, you appear to be unmuted right now. If you can talk. He, in the text, does say he's very sorry. The laydown area will be as far north as possible. The agreement was not to remove any of the trees, though. So they need to be cautious of the trees there. That remove any of the trees on the area that the owner owns, Ms. Bowman. So
Thank you. I recognize the need for utility infrastructure, and it's always disruptive when it's going in. The laydown yard itself as a use for storage, et cetera. I think the noise is certainly, you know, a real thing, but damage to structures with the kind of distance we're looking at, I don't see any reason why that would give a pause. I'm not that I'm an expert in that, but in terms of the storage of materials. And I think that, you know, we always have to be mindful of utility needs. So I'm comfortable moving forward with it. I do think whatever conversation can be had with the applicant in terms of mitigating any of that to the north that we can is important. I'm not sure how to codify that exactly. Commissioners, any other thoughts or motions?
And I think I would prefer that the applicant could answer questions and either be present to have a discussion with us around this, so that we could at least have a discussion around Plan B and understand that Plan B is not an option with the applicant. So at least for me at this time, I'm a no, because the applicant is not here. We're truly not able to have a conversation with the applicant and truly understand what it is they're going to do, and hear from Thomas. So
he did respond in the chat that Plan B is not an option, and he asked if there's another way to call in. And Thomas, I'm not aware. I mean, you could call in, but you need to be able to unmute somehow. So
I'd say one of the things that gives me, you know, confidence in this is that the home that is nearest by the use is also the owner of the property that's going to have the laydown yard. So they are taking onto themselves the same burden or more burden than asking of the neighbors. And that's actually fairly unusual that we get that. It's usually, a property that's owned elsewhere and it's impacting someone, but not them. In this case, I feel like they're taking ownership of that. So there's opportunities for further conversation between the landowner, who is also the nearest homeowner, and the rest of the neighborhood with the applicant. And that's one of the things that I find to be, gives me an area of comfort. So. Commissioner Reed, any thoughts? And
Not really significant thoughts. I hear your point and your concern, Commissioner Anderson. I think that it seems that the questions that have been asked have been answered to the best of the applicant's ability right now, who's present and but unable to unmute and fully engage. And I think that all of the mitigating conditions on that staff are recommending, and feedback gathered from all the other entities make me feel comfortable enough with it. I think, as Carl said earlier, like lessons learned from previous lay down yard experiences and some additional conditions applied make me feel comfortable moving forward with this. And I'm not sure that there's any more to be gleaned from the applicant directly about issues we've discussed tonight. So I'm comfortable moving forward.
thank you. I'll go ahead and make a motion and we'll see where that goes. I move to approve a temporary business use permit to allow a laydown yard northeast of the intersection of East 902 Road and North 1464 Road from July 27th, 2026 through October 31st, 2026, with the conditions as listed in the staff memo, with efforts to move it as far north as possible.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other conversation? All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Passes 4-1, but very much appreciate neighbors being here to help us talk through the conversation. That moves us to our item number 3, which is an executive session. Thank you, Carl. Thanks for being here. Thanks for all the team. And I will have a motion for that. So I move that we recess into executive session to discuss pending litigation. The justification is for consultation with legal counsel, which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship. Attending the executive session will be Douglas County Councilor John Bullock and County Administrator Sarah Plinsky. No action will be taken during the executive session. We return to our open meeting in this room.
We'd like
at
15 minutes.
15 minutes
So if we-
at 7 o'clock.
Yep, great.
Right. Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 Passes. Thank you. We'll give us 2 minutes and we'll start at 7 o'clock.
Okay.
My computer. So that it concludes our regular.
You need to state that there was no action.
There was no action
Okay.
in our executive session. So that moves us to appointments. Do we have any appointments to talk about tonight?
I don't have anything for you, commissioners.
Okay. And then that moves us to Commissioner or Administrator Miscellaneous, and we'll start with Sarah's memo.
Commissioners, my updated memo is in the packet. Just, I think those are pretty much the same dates that you had last week. Just a reminder, we are not meeting next week. We have got 5 Wednesdays in July, so we are not meeting next week, and we will be back again on August 5th. And that's all I have for you, commissioners.
Thank you. Any questions for Sarah or any Commissioner Miscellaneous? Seeing none, we are adjourned for the evening. Thank you all.